Namaste, Jai Hind and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. Plenty of ground to cover. We start with news just coming in from Kerala, where there's a huge rap on the knuckles for the Pinarayi Vijayan government by the Kerala High Court on inaction against the Popular Front of India and its outfits, various outfits. Let's get you the details. Breaking news coming in here on this edition of The Right Stand. The High Court has expressed displeasure in the slow progress in the PFI case proceedings. The Pinarayi Vijayan-led left government facing a lot of criticism in court. Questions being asked, why were recovery proceedings not started yet? The High Court has also given an ultimatum to the government to implement the proceedings at the earliest. The High Court has asked the government, why did the recovery proceedings not start and why have they been delayed? The High Court has directed the government to complete the proceedings on a district-to-district basis and send the report by the 23rd of January, that is by Monday the 23rd of January. No notice has to be served while executing recovery proceedings. That's what the court has now said and directed the Pinarayi Vijayan-led government. Let's go across to Pradeep Pillai joining us with more. Yes, Pradeep.
Anand, yes, as you rightly said, it's a solid rap on the knuckles for the state government, which has been dragging its feet despite court's order and a deadline set by the High Court to attach the properties in order to, pay the compensation for the damages caused, during the Hartal, which was called by the Popular Front of India in response to the national level crackdown on the various PFI officers and residences of the office bearers and the arrests that followed. Now, the state government filed an action taken report in the High Court in which it detailed the actions taken by it. It details. We have a copy of the court order also with us in this action taken report, which is cited by the Honorable High Court, where it says that the state police chief had furnished the details of the office bearers, and this was sent to the concerned Department of Revenue, which identified the properties, and notices under sections 7 and 34 of the Revenue Recovery Act were served, especially on one person, Mr. Ali Kunju, who is the father of the State Secretary of the Popular Front of India, Abdul Rehman. Now, the court really snubbed the government on this, saying that this was not necessary. Section 7 and 34 of the Revenue Recovery Act are designed to protect the interests of the owners in the case of a normal, natural revenue recovery, and it is not at all applicable in such a case wherein the court had very specifically asked the government to initiate proceedings to attach the property so as to extract the amount of 5.2 crore from them, which was the extent of damages as filed mainly by the State Road Transport Corporation. Anand.
Is there a response from the government? Are we going to see a crackdown and the recovery proceedings commencing from tomorrow onwards? Because the deadline is Monday and they have to do it at a district-wise basis.
Yes, Anand, there has been no response officially from the government so far, but obviously the court has now given no room for any kind of maneuver or any kind of excuses for the government to come forward, because the court said, just go ahead and attach the properties. No need for any more, formalities like serving the notice or otherwise. Yes, the government has been alerted through the state attorney who was present in the High Court, and the High Court very clearly said that the government authorities, the agencies have misrepresented or they misinterpreted the words of the court while trying to, enforce or give the margin of the sections 7 and 34 of the Revenue Recovery Act. So there is no other go in front of the government. It has to go ahead and attach the properties and ensure that the money is paid in time when the court takes this up on 24th.
Right. Pradeep, thank you for your inputs. So big development, this rap on the knuckles for the Pinarayi Vijayan-led government. Pinarayi Vijayan away in Hyderabad trying to try and cobble up that united opposition front at the behest of KCR. He was critical of the PM-led government at the centre, but his own government under scrutiny for inaction against an outfit that's been banned under the UAPA for 5 years. Thank you. Thank you for your inputs, Pradeep. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about terror, the first name that comes to mind, it's by default the epicenter, Pakistan. But tonight, on this edition of The Right Stand, we will dive a little deeper into this nexus, a nation that is in doldrums, a nation that is on the verge of balkanization, a nation whose prime minister is quite literally going around with a begging bowl and nobody wants to even drop pocket change into that bowl. And they've said, go back, and the only option is India. That nation is so obsessed with bleeding India with 1,000 cuts, with so obsessed with this entire K2 narrative, is so obsessed with proxy war that somewhere the terrorists and the terror ideals seem to be getting a free run. They may be bankrupt, but they still find blood money to go ahead and bleed India or work their nefarious designs. Now, let's try and understand this. We told you last evening about the juvenile attempt, the counter-terrorism challenge that we face, because Pakistan and its jihadis and these jihadi outfits are targeting impressionable young minds, underage kids, because they believe that they can escape the law. Now, let's go ahead a little further. Today, Nazir Bhatt of Harkatul Ansar, these are the terror handlers. We are getting you the interrogation details as per our investigations editor Manoj Gupta and also Anvit Srivastava adding to these inputs of Naushad and the other terrorists who were caught at Jahangirpuri. So let's try and understand the details very carefully. Nazir Bhatt of Harkatul Ansar, Nadeem of Hizbul Mujahideen. So clearly they are all part of these Kashmir jihadi outfits. Nasir Khan of Harkatul Ansar and Nazir Khan of Harkatul Ansar. So there are 3 or 4 people who are these handlers, and their names are Nazir Bhatt, Nasir Khan and Nazir Khan, the same person or different people, that's again subject, but they were in touch with 4 different names or handlers. Now, who are the gangsters these terrorists were in touch with? The terrorists are gangsters are Sunil Rathi, Neeraj Bawana, Irfan alias Chenu, Hashim alias Baba, Ible Hassan and Imran Pahlwan. So this entire lot of gangsters they were in touch with. And who were the targets that were handed over to them? The targets were handed over as BJP, RSS, Shiv Sena leaders. So the leaders who are part of this entire Hindutva bastion are seen as right-wing Hindu outfits. These are the ones who are on their target. Shiv Sena leader Amit Arora, Congress leader Gursimran Maan, Bajrang Dal leader Jitendra Kumar are some of them. So Hindu leaders, RSS leaders, those who with affiliations, or those who are Sikh leaders who do not toe the Khalistani line, and irrespective of political parties, but they were on the terror radar. So you kill one leader from the Shiv Sena, Hindu leader, kill a Sikh leader, and kill another leader from another outfit of that is the Bajrang Dal. And for each, there was a bounty that was announced. 50 lakhs, 1 crore, 1.5 crore. Now, what does that open up, ladies and gentlemen? What opens up is this entire web of terror and how it is cast. We need to understand it from a larger perspective to wisen up to their machinations. And somewhere, the similarities of what they tried to engineer in Kashmir with Kashmiri Hindus in the 90s and 2000s, 80s, 90s and 2000s seems to be working, or they may seem to be orchestrating that further down south or in the rest of North India. Most importantly in Punjab. They're trying to use that model. Drugs, a major source of funding for terrorism, is being used, injecting venom into Bharat's future and also sowing seeds of secession. So you have narcotics, the narco route is being used. Then you have the route of arms, drones which are being used to drop arms and ammunition, and this is happening right across the IB and the LOC. Social media is being used to sell these firearms. So they're using the dark web to sell off these firearms also and distribute them into the rest of the country. The gangsters are also being used to ferry it as logistics, but they are also being used for these targeted killings and massacres. So much so that you also have rocket launchers present, which were unleashed on the intelligence headquarters in Taran Taran and also the police station in Taran Taran. Then, brainwashing via social media. This is the entire radicalization effect. So how do I uproot you? How do I unseat you? And how do I make you so shallow that you can be molded, malleable, and you're like driftwood in water. You don't know which way you're going and we can pull you in whichever direction. You've got no roots. The other aspect, exploiting emotional vulnerability and inciting them against India, moving them on that path where they will help the enemy bleed Bharat internally. That's what it is. Sleeper cells to destabilize local communities, create communal strife. Some will dress up, who have come here, terrorists who will come up, pose as Hindus, live as Hindus, and then create social strife, try and work the fault lines in society, and again create unrest there, foment social divisions, and neutralize law enforcement agents. So they will do this also tacitly. This hybrid terrorism which you see in Jammu and Kashmir, is it manifest in other places too? Or there are gangsters who live in one district, one state, go to the other state, commit a crime, come back to this district, live as ordinary citizens. Gangsters are also being used to ferry narcotics. Gangsters are also running these extortion rackets. We saw this on this whole thing unearth, a can of worms and skeletons tumbling out when Sidhu Moosewala murder investigation led all the way up to Salman Khan's doorstep. And then also it was all being run from Tihar jail and by the likes of Goldie Brar sitting in Canada. And here also in this case, in this arrest, you have a terrorist, a Khalistani sitting in Canada who's running these ops and in touch with Pakistan handlers, in touch with other elements who are sitting and operating in Pakistan. All of them ISI puppets. And then, of course, the last and more important aspect that comes out is juveniles. So you have drugs, arms, radicalization, sleeper cells, gangsters, and then juveniles, where you have fake videos which are being made to incite youth, propaganda which is being sold, all to lure them also via drugs and cash. We're seeing that in Punjab. We're seeing that manifest in Kashmir. Evade stringent punishment, and that's the thing. The law is light on juveniles, so let's use them. 15-16 साल का लड़का लड़की पकड़े जाएंगे, they will be let off in 2 or 3 years, and then they can come back and they will be hardened, they'll be nurtured, and then we'll use them further on going forward. That is something which these jihadis are using. And then of course these tanzeems, the jihadi tanzeems, this is the entire web that is there, and they are the most potent arm of this proxy war. These jihadi tanzeems who are running these training institutes, whose cadre are then getting into different areas of running propaganda, developing, writing, pushing this propaganda, sitting over in Pakistan. They plot and execute attacks. They mastermind. They're playing lone wolves. They're creating modules in different places. All look disconnected, but somewhere connected on encrypted platforms and social media chat forums. And they're using this again very clearly to try and wage this proxy war. So this is the entire epicenter of terror and the way it is working, casting its web all across Bharat. How do we break this? How do we fight this? And should we blink to any talk or softening of stance by the enemy? Or should we wisen up and first uproot all of this? See this from the larger point of view, this web of terror. Let's go across to our guests. We've set it up for them to express their opinion here. SP Vaid, former DGP Jammu and Kashmir with us. Abhijit Iyer Mitra, Senior Fellow, Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies with us. Lieutenant General KJ Singh, former General Officer Commanding in Chief of the Western Command with us. And NK Sood, former RNAW officer also with us. Namaste and Jai Hind to everybody. SP Vaid ji, is it a feeling of deja vu? Is it very eerie that what was used in Jammu and Kashmir is now being templated and used in the rest of the country? And when they divulge, how is it that it all sounds similar? आप उनको देश में कहीं भी पकड़ लो, दिल्ली में पकड़ लो, तरन तारण में पकड़ लो, लुधियाना में पकड़ लो, बारामूला में पकड़ लो, when they open their mouth, they seem to rattle the same tale.
Anandji, absolutely. Good evening. In fact, I have seen all this happening in last 35 years in Kashmir, and this is what is unfolding in other parts of the country. The module is very similar of the establishment of Pakistan, how deep it is, how to win over these young minds, brainwash them, show them propaganda films, get them jihadized and send them here. You have army of trained, radicalized these boys readily available in Pakistan, because they don't need young boys as we are producing as engineers, doctors, scientists. That is why today where Pakistan is. In fact, for their survival, they need incidents not only in Jammu and Kashmir, Punjab and rest of India, just to stay relevant in Pakistan. You saw the other day toolkit playing all across important capitals of the world. How the Punjab radical Sikh angle they are playing, whether it is London, Canada, Khalistani toolkit, how they are playing. Look at the way their whole political party, their embassies, their foreign service is used propaganda against government of India, propaganda against Bharat, and do anything to break India. Do anything. Work on the fault lines in India, whether it is caste, community, religion, whatever you find, and work on these fault lines, create fissures in the society, and try to break this country. Use dark web, use social media, use drone technology. We use drones for firefighting. We use drones for dropping medical supplies, and they are using drones for dropping drugs and dropping the weapons. What do you do with such a neighbor? I think there is no chance of letting go. I don't think India should, unless Pakistan mends the establishment there, actually swears that it is not going to pursue this policy. There is no point in talking. Who are you talking to? The political leaders you are talking, they have no relevance of theirs. Everything is decided by a deep state of Pakistan. And today people of Pakistan are dying of hunger, and they are fighting for one bori of atta. And they are today questioning, you were running the Pakistan state for last 75 years. Where have you brought it? But the problem is they have created the whole society completely radicalized, and look at the way they are producing their terror factories are producing young minds completely radicalized and available to break India. So I think God is doing what Pakistan deserved, and I feel pity for these young boys. In fact, I have interrogated hundreds of them. इतना दुख आता है बच्चों की. After all, इंसानियत भी कोई चीज है. When you see these young boys, 15-16 साल का बच्चा है, वो भी किसी माँ का बच्चा है, किसी बाप का भाई, किसी बहन का भाई है. I feel pity for those young boys. How much they are radicalized, and they are trained and sent here to kill some Khalistani
right.
Whoever is opposing Khalistan.
And they also get shocked. A lot of them who are coming in from, who are infiltrating or who are just crossing over from POK and into Kashmir, but they come in with such false ideas, and when they come and see what is happening here, they're shocked. They're like, "Arey, ye humko kya sikha ke bheja hai? Yahan kya karte? Ab hum kya kare?" But they're so far gone. There is no way for them to return. And they know they are cannon fodder, and they're going to be shot down. The day they pick up the gun, they know there is a bullet on their name, with their name already etched, and it's a matter of less than a week that they'll be accounted for. That's the average now. But it's a reality. But what it's doing to India is far more dangerous. Can we allow this to slowly manifest? Usko kya dheere dheere nasur banne diya jaye, Lieutenant General KJ Singh, because you are of the opinion that this is not limited only to Punjab or Delhi. You are saying that this is spreading into other parts of the country, and slowly, and we need to wisen up sooner than later.
Anand, Jai Hind. Firstly, this problem is of a very grave and a serious ramification, because occasionally they have tried it earlier also in South India. PFI is a manifestation of that, and Simi was another manifestation of the same thing. But the targeting was not so much of juvenile recruitment was not so much, but it was happening. It was not as if radicalization was not being done. Now what has happened is, in states of Jammu and Kashmir, and even in Punjab to a certain extent, surveillance on known or suspected people has increased. So terrorists have now switched gears to a different age group. They're looking at juveniles. And juveniles from marginal families who are not educated. Some of them come with a sense of bravado to do something, to get their sister married, After all, Ajmal Kasab, though he was not a juvenile, he was 25, but he had come with such a charter. He came from a family which was into meat cutting, and he came with this premise that he had been given advance money, and which would be used for marriage of his sister. So if that be so, they are, and the problem is, security agencies can do this much. We have good schools, we have good Samaritan schools, we have Assam Rifle schools. So police is running certain facilities. Bad staff will bear me out. So that can be only this much. The baton has to be passed on to society. Society has to take care of these people, and also internationally there has to be a zero tolerance. You have one incident and that country should be put on the blacklist. It should not be allowed, it's not be tolerated, because United Nations conventions are very, very clear and very, very strict on use of children in combat zone. But unfortunately, what has happened, large number of these groups like Hezbollah, LTT and LET and Jaish-e-Mohammed and all these, Harkatul Ansar, and even some forms of Taliban have used child soldiers, child terrorists, and has corrupted their minds.
Sir, it is also an international model, no? They are such cowards. They will not fight. They will put these children as human shields. This is how they are. They'll put women, they'll put children and hide behind them. They are cowards. ये बुज़दिल तो हैं, ये सीधे तो लड़ नहीं सकते. 3 बार लड़ाई की और तीसरी बार तो 90,000 हमने पकड़ लिए थे, चूड़ियां पहना के हमने भेजे थे उनको वापस. So the reality is different. They can fight these wars and they are so far gone down. But my concern with you, and I'm going to come back to you before I bring in Abhijit Iyer Mitra and Nexus, how do we crack this? How do we ensure that the enemy's machinations don't manifest on our soil? See, even today, if you go to Maharashtra, if you go to Madhya Pradesh, there are places where these arms and huge caches are still lying around there. It's not that people don't know, but we are not catching them. We know who's kept it there, but we are not catching them. And it's not just in these states. It's there in Bengal, it's there in UP, it's there in multiple states of our country.
See, Anand, there has to be zero tolerance on politician and this mafia nexus. That just cannot be allowed, because some politicians are using them for vote banks. They are complicit in this game. So there has to be zero tolerance on that. NIA and other agencies have to get hold of these people and put them behind bars. There can be no other sort of choice. We have to do this. And the second thing is, surveillance in society has to be enhanced. It's a problem which is not yet assumed dangerous or very serious proportion. Right. It can be managed. We can roll it back. Government is doing lots. Madrasas are being registered. Education curriculums are being changed. So it's a whole of nation approach. Everyone has to get on board, have zero tolerance, and if you see anything nefarious like this, if you even get a whiff of it, you should not say कि ये बच्चा है, जाने दो, parents सुधार लेंगे. It should be reported, and let the police and other agencies monitor that child, that family, and tackle them, because as you rightly say, this is a cancer, and this should not be allowed to spread to different parts of this country. And the biggest threat is peninsular India, where you have IT development and such like activities taking place.
But let's also be a little honest with ourselves as we look in the mirror. Abhijit Iyer Mitra and NK Sudji, I'll bring you in after that. That there are those within also who sympathize, empathize, work with the enemy. If these children are being brainwashed, is there not some responsibility that the families have to shoulder? If young children are being taught that your job is to go ahead and kill, your job is to go ahead and this is what it is, and if this is the language they are being taught, then we have a serious problem.
Absolutely, Anand. Because look, Pakistan has been quite rightly called the global emporium of terror. If you find some, sorry to use the word, but best practice of terrorism anywhere in the world, it comes to roost in Pakistan, right?
Yeah.
And in this case, one of the best practices of international governance is to have a multi-spectral approach. Information warfare, etc., being what's called the fourth dimension of war, being a very important part of it. So what does Pakistan do? You see, they use different levers available to them in India. They will always use, the people with, how should we put this, a tender heart to keep, advocating for peace irrespective of what happens. They will use the more pliable people to use information warfare within India to start up riots. They will use, international levers of validation. So, for example, it's a well-known fact that, unfortunately, the Indian media doesn't seek validation itself. It seeks a lot of foreign validation.
Yeah.
And so there's a huge amount of pressure to, live up to the Washington Post and New York Times story, who gets spun very well by the Pakistanis. And so what you do is you create this genocide narrative. What you're doing is you're using information warfare to create, whether there is actual alienation on the ground or not, it doesn't matter. If you create a sense of alienation, where everybody then starts feeling that, hey, yes, you know what, we are being genocided in this country, we are in a state of perpetual war, it's leading to that. And of course, then you've got, what Lenin used to call useful idiots, the unintentional fifth columns, who invariably end up parroting the Pakistani line. So what they're doing is very, very clever. It's multispectral warfare, and they're very strong in the information front. The problem is, being a free country that we are, if we crack down on a lot of these policies, the problem becomes that you're walking down a very, very slippery slope for, freedom of expression in this country. And this is sort of the asymmetry that has always plagued free countries. That, non-democratic military dictatorships, I mean, Pakistan is a military dictatorship. They've got a sham of a government happening at the moment. They have a lot more levers when they deal with democratic countries like India than India has dealing with them.
See, but how do you work these? How do you work these levers? And Kesudji, one of the aspects is somebody is doing something nefarious, but you cannot catch that person, or do you have enough evidence to prove it in court? Somebody is radicalizing. So what they are teaching in a particular place, or the method of instruction, or what they are being exposed to, is highly toxic. But till that person commits an act, does something, you have to respect the right to privacy and right to information and right to access of what is being available on public platforms or on social media platforms. So how do you balance this out? Does that make the task tougher for a cop, for somebody in intelligence?
So actually, I would respond to this in a different way.
Ji.
First thing, we will have to be brutal against these people. We will have to change our laws. We will have to tell our security forces to be very brutal against these people. Secondly, Pakistan's ISA, they are disturbed because they have not been able to carry out any terror attack inside India, outside Kashmir rather, for the past few years. So they just want to try again. They want to prove their mettle, that they are the best terrorist organization in the world. I'm talking about the ISA. Third thing, recently a boat was caught. It contained 10 persons. There were 10 persons on it. They had drugs. They had arms ammunition. It was caught near Okha in Gujarat. So I think they wanted to carry out the same attack that they carried out on 26/11. There have been a lot of incidents where the people, some people with their trucks or everything, ammunition, they were caught, and I give full credit to our intelligence agents. Third thing, after 26/11, there was a lot of talk in India how to safeguard our coast, because we have a very big coastline, 7,516 kilometers.
Right.
What India did, India started taking action. Now we have installed all these years 36 radars, Maldives, Mauritius, Seychelles, and Sri Lanka. Any ship coming from those places, coming into the Indian Ocean, is targeted. Its pictures are shown on the center is there in Gurgaon. The pictures come up. So that's why we were successful in catching that boat that was caught from near Okha. So we have more or less safeguarded this area. Now, the fourth thing is there, Pakistan is a terrorist state.
Right.
Pakistan was brought out of FATF list by the backing of the US because US wanted to have some kind of relationship with Pakistan. US wants to punish India because India is purchasing oil from Russia. India did not criticize Russia. That's why US is angry. Ilhan Omar, one of the members, the MPs on the parliamentarian, she had gone to POK to support Pakistan. Of course, then US said that we are not aware. It's a private visit, everything. After that, the US ambassador in Pakistan, he went to POK and praised Pakistan, and he showed that it's a part of Pakistan, not part of India or a disputed territory. Now, Pakistan was in a very strange position. They were short of money, everything, And you see, during the past few days, what has happened? Pakistan got $10 billion when a conference was held in Geneva, and US was behind it. Saudi Arabia gave Pakistan some money, US was behind it. Yesterday, UAE gave $1 billion to Pakistan, US is behind that.
Right.
US is supporting Pakistan, and they are targeting India. US knows. All these years, we had been telling US that the Pakistan is a terrorist state, US didn't tell. They were laughing at India. Unless 9/11 happened.
Right.
Now US is again inviting trouble. India, of course, is very positive. India knows that whenever they carry out any attack, we will carry out this counter-attack against Pakistan. And US is trying to destabilize India or teach India a lesson.
But
so
see,
I think.
But Susab, the fact is that Ilhan Omar now stands removed from the Foreign Affairs Committee. That's what's happened. The recent development itself is.
I know that. I know that. But the thing is that she was specifically brought for this purpose. And why have they removed their ambassador from Pakistan who went to POK?
But in the last,
didn't go to POK.
That happened till October or November. But from December onwards, if you were to look at it, even on the aspect of the Yusuf report of religious freedom, even though the report added India on a state where it was the area state of city or a country of concern, when the US State Department released their list, the official list by the US, India was not part of that list. Pakistan remained the list. Yesterday or day before, it is US government and which was also with us in getting Makki designated a global terrorist. It's happened in 10 months. So there are some victories and there are some shifts happening. My point is the geopolitical aspects, NK Sutsab, we can have, but there is something which is happening. They have seeded the enemy into our soil. The enemy has seeded elements into our soil which can spring up at any point. That's already there that's clear and present danger for us. Have we wizened up to that, and can we crack down on that? That's the big question. Remember, in the 90s and early 2000s, perhaps the biggest cache of arms and ammunition was found soon after the blasts in Maharashtra. It was found in neighboring Gujarat. It was found in Madhya Pradesh. So there is a history to what we are talking about. There is a history, and is it a repeat of the same set of events and similar patterns which were practiced in 80s, 90s, 2000s, which are again manifesting themselves in this decade? That's something which we need to wake up. This is an internal challenge. What's happening with the enemy? It's on the process of verge of totally disintegrating. All of that is perhaps external, but have they sowed enough in this country that they can damage, irrespective of what happens to the enemy in the near future? I leave you with that thought. And are we equipped to deal with that? Are we seriously dealing with that? I would have liked to expand on that, but we've got breaking news coming in on the PFI front. There's one big arrest that the NIA has made. Just need to put that out, ladies and gentlemen. And the NIA has arrested Mohammad Sadiq, who was working as a reporter for the PFI in Kerala. Case searches were conducted on Tuesday at his house in Kollam, and according to NIA investigation, the PFI had assigned the job of a reporter to the accused, Mohammad Sadiq, a reporter, quoted reporter in the PFI system who collects details about leaders of other communities for possible targeting by hit squads of the PFI. During the searches, digital devices, several incriminating documents have been seized from the house of this accused. So one more accused Remember, we told you that the PFI has various modules and various responsibilities for some of its cadre. And being a reporter is one of the cadre that when you go ahead and keep an eye and identify and scout at possible targets from communities, from organizations whom PFI has already designated as enemy and who they believe they need to be targeted. The information is collected by these so-called reporters and then handed over to the hit squad. That's another designation and another grouping that the PFI cleared, for whom weapons training was given, for whom they were taught how to make explosive devices, and also they were taught how to execute, behead, mutilate. So these are some things, details we have put out here at CNN News 18. But one of the reporters, important man who had given the cops and the NIA sleuths a slip on the entire PFI crackdown, which happened nationwide and largely in Kerala, Mohammed Sadiq, now stands arrested. We're going to take a very, very short break. Ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, that entire peace offering of Shehbaz Sharif, we break that down. We tell you what's the story behind that peace offering. Is there huge amount of pressure mounted on him, on nations he thought would be his allies, but who have now turned the door, saying we're not even ready to give you pocket change into your begging bowl. Go back and sort out equations with India. But as we put that out, we ask this question and we tell you, remember, this enemy cannot be trusted. Should we double the dose when the patient is recovering? Stay with us.